Hi, guys. Welcome to the podcast today. I'm Cole Pruitt, lead pastor of Valley View Church in Longview, Washington. And with me today is Marcel Joseph, the worship and youth director at Three Circle Church in Mobile, Alabama. How you doing today, Marcel?
I'm good, man. I'm doing really good. How about you?
Man, I am fantastic. It's awesome to talk with you today. Thanks so much for jumping in this. And I think we have to give a shout out to our mutual friend Chidia, who set this up for us.
Yeah,
Shout out to you, Chidia. You know we love you, guy. So tell me a little bit about yourself, man. We're just getting to know each other. So tell me a little bit about your family, where you're from.
absolutely, man. So originally, I am from Orlando, Florida, born and raised. So I got, in short, I'm a Florida boy through
Yeah.
and through. So I started my family there. I got married in 2008 to a beautiful woman named Whitney. We have two beautiful kids, Zari and Chase, or he's actually a Marcel Jr., but we call him Chase because we have to chase him.
I love it.
So but man, so yeah, so we decided to move here to Mobile last year, June last year. Actually, we're coming up on a year on June 10th, actually. So that's going to be really cool. So we decided to move here about a year ago, and man, we love it. Like it's totally different from anything that we've experienced before, but we are embracing it. And the beautiful thing is that not only are we embracing the call and the mission and the environment that we're in, but they're embracing us so well. So, it's just a pleasure to be here and do what we feel like God has called us to do, man, and just see God move in some incredible ways. So that's me and my family. My wife, she's a seamstress. I am a musician, a worship leader, a producer. I design, so I kind of, jack of all trades in a sense. So I do quite a bit, and that's kind of been my bit of my pattern or my stride or rhythm for these last maybe 10, 12 years or so. So got a lot of different perspectives creatively. My daughter sings. My son starting to play keys, and as you can tell, I play keys. But
Okay.
yeah, so it's just a we're a conglomerate of different creative aspects, man. So
I love
it's
it.
pretty cool. Like, so there's always something creatively going on in my house.
Oh, that's cool. That sounds awesome, man. How fast is little Chase?
Oh, he's fast. He's like Sonic fast.
I love it. I love it. Tell me then. So you're a Florida boy, and you're in the South. So is college football a thing for you guys?
It is for Florida, and it is for definitely for Alabama. But for me, not so much.
Okay.
True story. I play football. I love playing the game, but I'm not so infatuated with watching the game to where like I follow the sport.
Yeah.
But whenever I get a chance to watch it, I'll sit down and I'll watch it. So, but it's not something that I avidly like, follow whatever. So,
Yeah. I'll never forget when I first moved to Mobile. They began asking, "So, which side are you on?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
yep,
And they're like, "No, you have to pick a side." I'm like, "No, I'm from Texas. Hook 'em horns." Uh, and they're like, "No, you have to pick a side." I'm like,
right,
"No,
right, yep.
I'm getting
It's,
trapped into
it's
that." So,
that was the conversation I got when I first got here. You're gonna have to
right.
pick a side. So I said, you know what? Whoever house I'm at, that's whose side I'm gonna pick.
Ah, smart. Be all things to all men.
But you're gonna win some.
There you go. So, tell me about your role at Three Circle Church. You said you've been there about a year or so. What all do you do in ministry there?
Cool, man. So like my main my well not main but the thing that I do most of is I lead worship here. I direct our music department and whatnot, and so that's been incredible. But it's also been a really huge learning curve in the best way possible
Mm.
because a lot of the things that we do here is very thematical in the sense to where we tie our worship sets to the theme that is being preached on from Sunday to Sunday, which stretches me musically, right? Because I think as worship leaders, we get kind of tied up into this rhythm of songs that we like to sing, that kind of thing, and a lot of times that can wear out our congregation in ways that we don't understand because we love what we love.
Right.
But this stretches me past just doing things that kind of fall into my preference bank and allow me to stretch out and just really it's allowed me to rethink what praise and worship is and what it can be. And so that's a lot of what I do. I also am the youth director. So and what that means here is that for students, which are in grades 5 to 12,
Mm.
my job is to pastor them, and lead our student team well, so that we can engage our students, as they engage with the gospel and whatnot, and kind of help be the village for parents and kids here in our community. So that's what I do. We just launched our student ministry, so I'm still getting my feet wet in that. This is my first rodeo, if you will, of being a
Nice.
youth director. So I am learning a lot.
That's
I'm
awesome.
learning a lot, man. Kids are a different breed for sure. It's like you look at teenagers sometimes, you're like, was I ever one of you?
Yeah.
And, you
Right.
know what I mean?
Absolutely. We and one of the things I think I think back to my youth pastor days. Kids would teach you a lot.
Yeah, yeah, facts.
You will learn. But hey, man, if you can learn to pastor some teenagers, you can definitely learn to pastor some adults. There's the dirty secret is sometimes it's not that different. So
I get that. I
yeah,
get.
yeah. Well, today, man, let's talk about it is a conversation about faith, and that's what we've been talking about. And man, I'm so glad to talk to you today because I think faith is something that we need, especially in America right now, to look towards faith. And I think we would agree we're in a bad spot. We're in a really bad spot. So I had some questions for you. Based on, man, you and your wife made a wonderful, beautiful video last week, just talking about from your heart, what it's like to be black and Christian in America. Honestly,
Yeah,
which I appreciate you putting that out there. And you said
yeah,
something about, it's really important that you're a Christian first,
yeah,
before race comes in, before your culture comes in.
yeah,
Um, I'd love for you to expand a little bit on that, and even
yeah.
answer the question. But the kind of the opposite to that. How has race influenced your faith? Do you think?
That's a great question, man. I've been trying to figure out how how to answer it, because I've been kind of asked that a couple times, and so um, I guess to if I can say it like this, the way that race has influenced my religion or Christianity is the way I worship. We tend to worship a little differently, just because of the emotional attachment to our understanding of where God has brought us from as a people, first and foremost, and the things that we have had to literally fight against and fight through to even get to this place where we can be clear enough to realize that God exists and that God did, bring us this far. So the emotional aspect, it definitely has given me more gratitude toward God. I feel like for as far as maybe than what I could have had not being this skin color. So I do feel like that has influenced the way I worship a lot. And you know, I think it has also given me a level of compassion for all people that experience injustice. It's allowed my prayer life to grow in different ways that I can really like empathize with and be like, man, like wrong is wrong. Like it's allowed me to be able to see injustice everywhere and fight for it everywhere because of what I have faced being a black person in America, but also what black culture has faced being here in America for so many years.
Yeah, and you're in a town now that is it's got I'll say it's got more cultural diversity than where we are in Longview, Washington. I'll say that, but I remember I moved from Texas to Mobile, and growing up I just never really thought much about race. But then I ended up in some really multicultural churches,
Mhm.
and it's wonderful to see people coming together, and you do. There's different styles of worship because I mean cultures are different, and we come at this from different aspects, and I love it all. It's great to see it all working together.
Yeah,
I hate that our country feels so torn apart right now,
yeah,
which we'll get into. But I want to lob you a softball to kind of get started. Uh, what's one question you wish people would not ask you about being black? They've asked you, and you're like, please don't ask that. And then I want to flip it on you. What's one question you wish they would ask about being black?
Particularly in this time, and those are great questions. Particularly in this time, I've gotten a lot of calls, asking, "Hey, man, are you okay?"
Yeah,
That kind of thing. Like, how's this impacting you? And those questions are very like just, kind of like, why are you asking me that? Like you can kind of see the climate amongst the masses, and you can, if you could just look, you can kind of imagine that that's a part of how I feel. That's a part of how it's impacted me. As a black person in America. So that's one of the things I kind of, even though I understand the intent for the question because they're attempting to empathize, with me as a person of color. I get it, but I would rather more white brothers and sisters ask me, "Hey, how can I be a part of the solution?"
yeah,
That kind of thing, And so that way we can I can let them know from my perspective what I feel like could be a part of the solution. So that's kind of, uh, I don't know, and maybe that's the solutionist in me. And I feel like, a lot of men are, we're like, what's the problem? Let's fix it, kind of thing. Um, but that's kind of where I am. I'm like, we can talk about how I feel, but how I feel isn't really going to change how I feel. It's the solution. Like, how can we all become a part of the solution, to eliminate this sin, this atrocity called hate? You know what I mean?
yeah,
So that's really what I would rather focus on, the solution rather than the moment. Because even though the solution is tied to the moment, the solution is more important than this thing that we're in right now. So
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, and I definitely want to talk about some solution stuff here in a minute.
yeah,
So and I don't want this to feel trite because the kind of the counter of that is I think when your white brothers and sisters are asking,
right.
and I think it's because there's a lot of people trying to understand.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
like when I watched the video of George Floyd, man, 8 9 minutes down on the ground. What a travesty! I
Yeah,
mean, a horrible injustice. I know what I feel when I watch that. That's
right,
like that meant there's why wasn't that man put in the cop car safely?
right,
Why did this have to happen this way? Also, why are there three guys around that aren't bothered by this? How many times have they seen it? Why are they desensitized to this? That whole scene bothers me,
yeah,
but I can't see it the way that you see it.
right,
I would imagine. So, and it is not to sound trite, but man,
no,
how does it feel when you watch that versus how I watch that? Because it's a
right.
different frame of reference. It's a different perspective that I can't step my into those shoes.
I can respect that question. How do you feel versus how I feel? Yeah, like, or yeah, like I love the way you phrase that. Well, for me, man, I did a podcast a couple weeks back, and with a good friend of mine named Jack Dibben, and he said, how does this affect you, kind of thing, and we were specifically talking about, Ahmaud Arbery, but even with George Floyd, how does it impact me? Unfortunately, I don't get the I don't get the freshness or the luxury, if you will, and that's a horrible word to say in this case. I don't get the luxury to be mad
Mm,
because it's been happening for so long.
mm,
It's been happening. We've seen story after story after story. There have been movie after movie after movie, depicting true instances or whatever have you. So I don't get to feel mad, as much as I would really want to feel mad, about the situation. But it's more of like a disappointing thing. It's like it's still happening.
yeah,
It's still plaguing, our black, communities. It's still plaguing our black men. It's still plaguing us as a race. And when I say these type of phrases, please understand, for those who are looking and are going to have kind of a look at this video, like it's not about bashing white people at all. It's about uh, uh, allowing you to become aware of what we've been experiencing. So, when I see something like George Floyd, like it's just saddening. It's disappointing because it's like how much do we have to fight against this in order for people to in order for the masses to see that this is wrong. And so I feel like, even with what I just said, I feel like this is the most diverse stance that we have seen as America against injustice against the Black community. Period.
Yeah, I don't know anyone that's arguing for the actions the cop has taken. I've literally not talked to a single person that goes, "Yeah, I think, well, maybe he." No, everyone across the board, I feel like, is gone. That's reprehensible.
Right. Right, right. And so my thing is that it's a beautiful thing to see so many people of so many different backgrounds, even across the seas. They're saying they're chanting Black Lives Matter in their languages, and so that brings my heart joy to see that we have people fighting for us who don't look like us, because I do believe this wholeheartedly, that we cannot achieve social justice until we have social unity, because I can't, if I can't fight for you, if I can't fight with you and fight for you, then I'll continue to perpetuate my bias, with my children or my children's children. So we have to learn how to fight for each other and with each other against all injustice. And so, even with mine, I know we got to keep moving, but even with the whole Central Park thing in mind, it's like, man, like what would happen if we could train our kids, on both sides to love each other because of our differences, instead of pushing each other away because of our differences, or creating these spaces of distrust or hatred because you don't look like me. So it's just those kind of things. That's so as far as solution speaking. That's, I know I'm kind of rambling, but as far as solution speaking, like I feel like that those are steps that we can take, man. Like and it's a long term thing, but those are steps that we can take now. Start teaching our nieces, our nephews, our sons and daughters, like, hey, we gotta learn how to embrace people in spite of how they look, but embrace people for who they are on the inside, and start fighting for one another.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that the faith community is really got a tough thing moving forward to kind of grapple with, because it's a sad truth that I think Sundays are one of the most segregated days of the year, or of the
That
week. I mean,
that
we have so many churches that this culture goes here, this culture goes here, this culture goes here. It's not just white and black. I mean, you've got all these different things happening, and how many churches say, "No, we want to bring everyone together and truly bring everyone together," which we know only happens through conversation. You getting to know someone that doesn't look like you,
yeah,
uh, getting into that kind of a frame of mind of, hey, the people that you know now, maybe that's not a big enough net.
yeah.
Maybe you need to meet some people, and that's one of the things I'm really pleased with here in Longview, man. That we've got everyone, as a part of our church, and it's a beautiful thing to see all different colors, all different kind of people coming from all different kinds of walks and faiths and lives too. That's the thing I think that makes faith and community strong, is there's one thing that brings us together, and we can talk about all the things that divide us, but the one thing that brings us together is Jesus. And I feel like across America, vastly, we're missing that. What do you think
Well,
about that?
um, missing Jesus. Yeah,
Well,
I agree with
missing Jesus
that.
broadly,
No, yeah,
yes, but churches, even the separation that happens in churches.
yeah, no, absolutely. I feel like we have the church at large. I feel like has missed the idea of what Christ painted for us in Revelations, wanting all nations to worship together, all people from all different backgrounds, to bow down and worship together, in unity. And so, and a lot of times, we feel so strongly about our biases or feel so strongly, not even biases, we feel so strongly about our culture that we don't focus on anybody else. And so we just kind of naturally and intrinsically, like, we gravitate to people who look like us. We gravitate towards people who like what we like. We gravitate towards people who like to eat what we like to eat and things of that sort. And so, in that, we disregard anything that doesn't fit those parameters, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think that we have to learn how to intentionally embrace other cultures, so that we can start to infiltrate other circles as well as allow other people to infiltrate our circles, so that we can start to look more like heaven here on earth. And we can start to worship together. We can start to build community together. We can start to fight for each other, because we're not, because here's the thing, like, you don't need to fight. Like, I don't need to fight for you because you're white. I need to fight for you because you're human,
Yeah.
and because you're a person. And so if we can get that, that type of heart towards bridging this gap, like, I feel like that'll go a whole lot further than me showing a form of pity. Let me do this because you don't look like me. Let me do this because you don't have what I have. Because this goes beyond racism. Like hate is hate, right? Like, or bias is bias, or isms are isms. Because you got culturalism, you got classism, you got all these different isms and things, and so they're all a form of sin. And so we have to figure out ways to be intentional about loving people because they're people and not because of what they have or what they look like. And so when it comes to church and our faith, we have to do the same thing. We have to start to build our churches and intentionally engage people that don't look like us, so that we can start to reflect heaven here on earth. And then Sunday won't be the most segregated day here, on earth, frankly.
Yeah.
Just is what it is. It goes beyond America as well. So that's kind of my mind frame toward it. And being here in Mobile, focusing specifically on multicultural church, like, it's become a passion of mine, man, to see people reconcile with one another, as they are reconciled with God, because Christ came for the Jews and he came for the Gentiles.
Right.
He came for, two groups of people who had it out for each other,
Yeah.
who didn't feel like, they were deserving of whatever, and God said, I came for you and I came for you. We all need to be gathering together. So we have to approach the world with that same aspect. Like, even though you don't believe what I believe, and when I say believe what I believe, like, you don't have the same things. You don't have the same preferences that I have. We still can worship Christ together. Like, in
Right.
spite of how you look, in spite of where you live, whatever. So that's just where I am with it, man. We
That's
have to
the word, man.
find a way to bind ourselves together, so that we
Right.
can create something very tight knitted.
Well, I know we've kind of jumped ahead of ourselves a little bit on this.
Okay.
As we kind of wrap this up, I want to ask really really quickly. This is kind of a tag on to the last question we asked, but the reaction to people that are in America right now to this George Floyd thing. Uh,
Yeah.
Man, I think everybody, it's a thing. Protesting in America is a thing. That's
Yeah.
part of our culture. Like, not white or black. Protesting is an American culture thing. From the very beginning. I think we all respect that.
Mm.
But how does it feel to see the looting and the rioting happen in place of some of these protests? And there are some beautiful stories right now of
Right.
protests, right?
Right.
And of cops and protesters getting together
Yeah.
and really cool stories. I wish those were more highlighted
Mm.
in our media, but for the most part, man, what you see on the news every night is, well, this city's getting trashed and this city's getting destroyed. How does that feel looking at that?
Yeah. Yeah. Seriously. So, uh, well, first let me say this: that the media is always going to go with the negative narrative,
Yep.
and unfortunately, we're going to see more of the negative part of this, because the media is like a vulture. Like they thrive off of dead things, they thrive with chaos. It just is what it is. Like that's how they get the streams, right? That's how they get the views. So there is a lot more, and I believe that it outweighs the negative press. But I believe there's a lot more positive protesting going on than there is negative protesting. But as far as how do I feel about the rioting and all that stuff? I don't agree with it. I don't agree with the rioting. I don't agree with the looting. I don't believe that you should tear somebody else's stuff up to prove a point. Um, and as much as I don't believe in this, the reality is this: is that what you see now happening is very American. In the facet that for us after slavery, for Black people after slavery, um, mobs of white people would come to Black homes, pull a man out of his home, and beat him in front of his family senseless, and then drag him on the back of a horse or a car to the tallest oak tree, and then hang him from it. So the idea of civil arrest that was put in place, for that time. Like it wasn't meant for for white people to go arrest white people. It was put in place so that white people would have the freedom to go arrest Black people or persecute Black people freely. So that's what that policy was put in place for. And so what we see as far as the rioting aspect of it is that that's what would happen when they would pursue these Black families back then in that time. And so the idea of rioting and looting, those are things that have been very American, as you stated, as well as protesting from the beginning of America. So it's very like fundamentally the rioting and the looting is very American, and it's something that we have learned from history. And so now that we see it in this facet, it has been demonized and it has been, received a lot of negative press. And again, though I don't agree with it, I understand it, and I understand how it could be deemed as justifiable, especially when we have, as a culture, we have tried to be as peaceful as possible with the civil rights movement, with Kaepernick taking a kneel, with Black athletes wearing T-shirts that says "Don't hands up, don't shoot" kind of thing. So we have done peaceful protests and attempted to do peaceful protests for as long as we possibly could. And so for some, this is the only option. And again, I will say it over and over and over. I do not agree with the rioting and the looting, but this is something that has been shown as the American way. And so now you have people who have said, okay, well, since this is how, since you won't hear it this way, then we're going to revert to something that you have always done, or we feel like has always been done to our community, and we're just making it a very public thing. And I would even go as far as to say this, that, it has been recorded and reported that a lot of white supremacists, white supremacists, sorry, I can't talk for whatever reason, has been arrested for coming out of state into different states and instigating and amplifying the looting and rioting aspect of things to help media demonize this movement that we're trying to make. Because again, I do believe that there are more positive protests that are going on than the negative things that are going on.
Well, I think it's interesting that you mentioned that because when you look at it, you obviously you can't put the rioting and the looting on Black culture because literally you see all. I mean, they're wearing masks, but I mean you can see their foreheads and their eyes, and I mean you see all races, and you say okay. I think, man, there's some protesters out there, and I wish people would kind of acknowledge the mix like that, like you did. Like, are there some people hijacking it? Yeah, probably. Most definitely. Are there some just opportunists that are don't have anything else to do and
all races, by the way.
Let's break into Nordstrom. Okay, so I think you get this weird mix of all these different things happening at the same time.
Yeah.
And, not a positive message.
Correct.
It's I love the video after video of actual, Black Lives Matter people are even like there's a couple of videos like a Black businesswoman who's like, guys, that's my store. You did all of it. Who are you helping right now? And some of that's really interesting. But yeah, I agree with you. I think there's unrest, and I think there's a mixture of things
Yeah.
happening with the looting and the riots. And to be honest, what do we expect a culture that has drifted from Jesus?
Hmm.
What do we expect the reaction to be? We can't judge them based on these Christ-like standards. Who Christ is, Father, they're crucifying me, forgive them.
Right.
Uh, that's a little bit different. I do wish we had an MLK type leader though.
Yeah.
Man, he was right there in the thick of it. His words are so comforting, man. The things he said, I think he did, like you said, he understood where the riots come from, the unrest, but at the same time, he would push and push and push.
No
No
violence.
violence, no violence. We're not going to win
Yeah.
anything with violence because violence begets violence,
Yeah.
which is an amazing take, man. I've enjoyed this conversation. But thank
Thank
you
you for
so
having
much,
me, man.
Marcel. It's a pleasure getting to know you.
Yeah. Yes,
Um,
sir.
I want to talk solutions to finish this thing out and wrap
Let's
this
do
up
it.
because I know there's a lot of people talking about national solutions right now, and
Yeah.
I it's hard to talk national solutions because as a Christ follower, so many things are personal. So many things are individual. It's my individual need for Jesus that makes me follow Him. It's not a societal cure. It's starting at the individual level. So that's what I want to talk about. What do you think we can do as individuals, just personally, to help things move forward and be part of the solution for this?
Absolutely. I think that you actually highlighted one of the biggest solutions that I'm a big advocate for is conversation.
Mm.
We have to have more conversations. We have to, talk and begin to understand each other. And it can't be a one-sided understanding thing. Like it can't just be white people trying to understand black people, but it has to be the other way around too. You know what I mean? And I think that we have to be open enough to hear honesty, even when it hurts. Because for the offended, the worst thing you can do is tell them how to feel. If you start trying to go down that route, it's going to be a downhill or uphill battle kind of thing, where it's like you're not winning. Like so. Um, I think that we have to have healthy conversations. I think that another thing to do is to start with our kids, which is something I said earlier. Start with our kids, start having the conversations, encouraging them to love people because they're people, not because of what they look like, and start understanding people because they're people, and not giving pity. And this is one of the biggest things I've been echoing in this time is like, even with everything going on, to my white brothers and sisters and to people who don't look like me, we don't need your pity as a culture. We need your presence. And so we need you to fight with us and fight for us. So whether it's a public injustice or whether it's a private injustice, whether it be in conversation or whatever have you, when you're around a group of people who only look like you, we need you to stand up for us because, and we need to vow to stand up for you in our private conversations as well. So I think that it has to be this thing where it becomes a perpetual fight for justice for all people. And so once we get to that point, I feel like that will eliminate a lot of the underlying things that we have faced, because I don't believe that a lot of the racism that has come to light has been malicious. I think it's just kind of been a subconscious thing of in a lot of ways, and I feel like a lot of it has been just blatant, obviously, which is why we're here. But I don't feel like all has been, just, oh, I'm out to, it has been malicious. Like, I don't believe that. But it's something that has to be addressed. And it's like, for instance, you have kids, yeah?
Oh yeah, two little girls.
So there's some behaviors that you see them having that are just a part of their DNA, if you will, like some behaviors that you had when you were a kid that is specific to you, but then too you see some right now traits of your wife in your daughters. You know what I mean? And it's just something that you know. If we're be honest, if someone says like, okay, I gotta make sure I talk to my kids about that, so they don't these attributes don't become pitfalls for them.
Right.
We have to have those type of conversations, and we have to start recognizing first of all what those biases look like, recognizing what those situations look like, and then we have to have conversations with our kids and say, "Hey, let's make sure we don't do this." Because a friend of mine said this. I believe good people are going to, teach their kids to be good people. And so, even though I do believe that's true, I think that we have to be intentional about teaching, people to be good people and to treat people well and to love people well because they're people. Because again, we don't need pity, we need presence. And that goes from both or from all sides because we have so many different nationalities here in this country. So that goes from all sides. We have to begin to love people because of people and because of what's here in their heart, not necessarily what's on the top of their skin. So
Loving
that's
sounds like the attribute of a Christ follower, doesn't it?
yeah, man. Yeah, man.
He
Yeah, man.
said he could have said any number of things that they would know you're Jesus followers because this or this. Nah, he threw all that out and said, nah, they'll know because you love each other.
But
That's
you
it.
love. That's so good, man. Yeah.
That's it. Well, man, thank you so much. Hey, Marcel, let everybody know where they can follow you and what they can help do to help the ministry.
Sweet, man. So my website is mjworship.com. mjworship.com. You can definitely find me there. All my music that I've released over the years is there. I also just launched an apparel company. So yeah, please, all your purchases go towards getting this music out to the world. And on Instagram, it's MJ Worship or MJ Worships with an S at the end. On Facebook, it's the same. I'm not on Twitter anymore, but
I
yeah.
understand.
What's that?
I understand. I have that little presence on Twitter anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta pretty much be a politician or celebrity to have a Twitter account.
Yeah, or a news anchor. It's to get a blue check mark in it. Yeah,
Right. Like I ain't there yet, But you guys can get me there.
That's it. That's it. Well, man, we always love to ask guests to pray over everyone's listening, and I think this is a really important thing, man. We'd love for you to pray blessings and pray over this situation that we're in right now.
Absolutely, I would love to. Cool. Well, Father God, thank you so much for this opportunity to have this conversation, this opportunity to just share perspectives as well as just kind of us both being willing to listen, and for the people who are on this call right now and viewing in, for them wanting to hear and opening their hearts to just to understand what it is, what the struggle has been for so many Black people here in America. But God, we thank you that it doesn't stop here, that this will invoke conversation, that this will invoke a deeper appreciation for people who don't look like me. This will invoke people to love other people well, man, and spread your love that is ultimately your truth about who you are. So God, we thank you for just being agents of change, agents of light here in this dark world. We thank you so much for leading us well through these moments, and God, and just helping us to love people who don't even believe that Jesus is real. Helping us to love them well, because as Pastor Cole has mentioned already, we're holding people to a Jesus standard who don't believe in Jesus. So help us love them well through this, and help them to see what you would have us all, or how you would have us all to respond. So God, we thank you for you being you. We lean into you. We depend on you to do what only you can, and that's to be the great God that you are. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Marcel, for talking with me today. Hey, if you enjoyed this conversation, then go ahead and like this, love this, share this out on Facebook. If you're on YouTube, make sure you like this, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you can get updates as we continue to put these out. Thank you guys. Bless you. You have a great week.